Alrighty, everybody, welcome to another episode of GameCorp. This is the one and only gaming podcast that you will ever need. I am your host once again. My name is Matt Hedrick, and here with me in the digital space, usually sitting far down at the end, he tries to avoid me at all costs. That's Mr. Chad Porto. How are you, sir?
The digital space is infinite, and it's not big enough to get away from you.
You would try though, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you try to get as far away as possible?
What do you think I've been trying to do for 3 years? I'm in a remote bunker, and it's still not far enough away from you. Granted, it's underneath your house, and like if you knocked on like the floor, I'd hear you, but like still, super far away from you.
I
So,
don't blame you.
so we're gonna do this out of order this week because you made me play Coffee Crisis, and I hate you.
What, you hate it? Jesus Christ.
It's not very good. I would say that I do have some complaints about it.
Hey, I got it for $1, so
Yeah, I just went to my friend's house to play it.
hey, you got it for free, so.
Didn't even get it for free. I just walked. I not walked, but I just walked my ass over there. Like, you have Coffee Crisis. I need to play Coffee Crisis. And he's like, "Would you like some coffee?" I was like, "I don't want your ironic bullshit." But yes, with milk only. So I drank coffee while playing Coffee Crisis. I have more to say right now about Death Stranding, and that's kind of where I want to start this pickle off. Um, so my friend reviews video games. So he always gets all types of goodies and whatnot, the perks. And I talked to him about it, and the flat out question was, I've been reading and watching all these reviews about it. What's the initial interpretation of this game? He goes, most of the reviews are right. There are going to be people who are going to grade this because they're aghast, just blown away. And watching the videos, man, like you can tell, this game is super polished.
Mm-hmm.
But this game is peak Kojima, and I've been saying for years now, Kojima's overrated as shit.
Mm-hmm.
I bought Metal Gear Solid 5. I know that when he doesn't have a writing staff in place, and he just has carte blanche to be able to design his own shit, it's bad. Metal Gear Solid 5 is bad. I don't care. Well, technically, it's a Marvel. The gameplay mechanics are top-notch. But there's nothing to do. Like, I play these games because he writes fucking science fiction with superhero characters. Like, the villains of his games are the reason I'm here. Revolver Ocelot. Vulcan Raven. Sniper Wolf. Fat Man. Vamp. Then you got who's in the third one? You got the Sorrow. You have what was his name? The Fear. You got the Misery or some bullshit like that. Then then you had like Crying Wolf and Weeping Octopus. 5 rolls around. You have Skullface. Oh, that's so cool. Who else? Random generated villain number 4, Vulcan from the third game, but now he's on fire. Oh, and maybe you'll see the little tiny baby Psycho Mantis. Oh, is he going to be around for often? No. You have Boss Battle? No. Oh, but there's little Liquid Snake. Do I get to play with him? Fight him? Do something with him? No. Oh, the game's not even done? Oh, he spent so much money Konami fired him because the game would never make a profit? Oh. Oh, jeez. That doesn't sound good. Are you saying that this was the most autonomy they ever gave Kojima during a Metal Gear Solid game, and it's the most fucked up one yet? Oh jeez. Oh, boy.
As if this wasn't a telling sign of what Death Stranding would eventually become.
I said to you, I've said on this show, I've said in your living room, in your car, at a few subways, and at a comic book convention, Death Stranding's going to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's bad.
I had no interest in it. I still don't. not even in the slightest, man. It's just as soon as I started seeing trailers and gameplay for it, I'm like, this game's a fucking walking simulator. That's it.
The thing that is telling And you have to understand how people word things and the way people write things and the way people talk about things. When they start saying things like, it's not for everyone, that's generally a sign that it's bad. It's generally a sign that people like it in spite of it being bad. Now, there's nothing wrong with liking something that isn't technically good. God knows I've seen The Phantom and The Rocketeer enough times that I never need to watch them again because I can quote those movies goddamn line by line. But I'm not going to sit here and tell anyone that they're amazing. I know
They're
what
just
I'm
amazing to you.
exactly. I know
in a
what I'm
sense.
watching. I know what I'm watching. I like. It's a pro wrestling game. It's called Legends of Wrestling Showdown. I like that game. It's a fun game. You get to have like actual 8-man tags before anyone was actually able to do 8-man tags in games. I like that game. Not a lot of people do. That's fine. I recognize why it has its problems. I get
Hey, that's
that.
kind of like my existence with you on this show. Is I like just about everything that you hate.
Yeah, including your life. I hate it. You, I hate it. Your face, I hate it. So when I hear reviewers talk about Death Stranding, I look for keywords. I look for buzzwords. And when things are like, this is a beautiful game, or they talk about the artistic integrity of the game. They talk about how this game is redefining something, or they talk about games in a sense where it's super fucking vague, and they talk about the interesting ideas that went into this game that you don't really talk about. But here's what this game is. At its core, it's fucking Paperboy.
Wow.
You deliver things for 50 hours. Ooh, I'm so impressed. You have topple mechanics, so if you have too much stuff on your back, you'll fall over. And when you fall, the stuff gets damaged. Ho ho ho! So fucking riveting. And those cool death things don't make any fucking sense. Oh, but you can detect them by having a baby who was born to a dead mother and is put into a container to continue its simulation to think that it's still attached to a dead mother, so it's both connected to reality and death at the same time.
I
Oh,
love
did I
how when you
mention?
slowly explain that you're insane. Your insanity level just went higher.
Did I mention bombs? Did I mention them? Because they're a thing. Piss into a
What
grenade
are
and
they?
you piss into a grenade and you throw it, and you can usually get 3
What the
grenades to a single
fuck?
piss. That's why you can piss.
Oh my god.
This is Hideo Kojima off the goddamn rails, and you're gonna see a lot of people with this exact phrase. If you didn't like Death Stranding, it's because you didn't understand Death Stranding. No, motherfucker, I'm smarter than you. I understood it. That's why it's dumb. It's so dumb. It's the dumbest. And when I finally get my hands on a playable copy, I'm going to tell you, from experience, it's fucking dumb. I watched, no joke, over an hour of footage. Continuously.
Oh god.
And do you know what theme song fits well with this fucking game?
I am curious.
VeggieTales. Keep
Oh
walking.
man, did not see that coming.
Keep walking, but we will not find something to do. Keep walking. It's nothing going to happen. It's plain to see. Your brains were very small to think Kojima would be giving you a game. Keep walking, but you won't find something to do. Keep walking. This song's the best thing that'll happen to you. It's plain to see. Your brains are very small to think Kojima would give you something to do. This game is terrible.
Jesus.
And here's where
You know
the
that'll
bulk
never
of
get pitched as a commercial either. You know that'll never happen.
here's the bulk of the gameplay, Matt. You want to know what the bulk of the gameplay is?
Okay.
Here's the bulk of the gameplay.
Okay.
Picking out what to wear and then using MapQuest. Ooh. I'm so in. So you mean I get to plan a trip? TripAdvisor 2019.
Like what the fuck? Like the one thing I always look for in games is escapism. You don't always want to have like grounded in reality. Granted, realistically recreating some things is nice and all, but this just sounds like downright boredom to the core.
Let's read these reviews. Death Stranding is the birth of
Okay.
a new game. Oh no, I'm sorry, a birth of a new genre. It's not. It's Paperboy. It's Paperboy. Death Stranding is a masterpiece that can only be generated by a mind like the one that Hideo Kojima has. This is what I talk about with name brand value. Kojima has such a sterling reputation that it will literally take 5 to 7 failed projects or controversy projects. That's British slang for controversy. It'll take 5 to 7 of those for people to wake up to the fact that Kojima has not been the mastermind behind great games anymore. Like, I'm telling you, Metal Gear Solid 5, as polished and as efficient as of an engine as it was boring. Kojima reuses so many fucking properties in games. It's ridiculous. Oh yeah, it'll take you 34 days to walk across the entire map, but you're gonna see the same 4 stock enemies and the same buildings over and over and over and over.
Genius.
It's brilliant. Oh, but we have Mads Mikkelsen. Or whatever his name is. We have piss bombs and stillborn live babies in tubes to power your sonar generator thing. We have dead people just black and goopy that you can only see sometimes because that would take too much energy to render their photos and stuff.
We have Jeff Keighley holograms.
It's like Tupac out here. It's somewhat blue and doesn't always work. So the first one's from Atomics. So you know that's I always go to Atomics. Always. Never heard of them before. Always go to there. Screen Rant. Death Stranding is dizzying, unshakable in its belief it is doing something worthwhile, and it's one of the most important games of this decade. When I go to ESPN, what I like to get are food recommendations. When I go to Screen Rant, I really want to know about video games. PlayStation Lifestyle. I bet they don't have a dog in this fight. 95. Death Stranding is not a fun game. 95. First sentence. Not a fun game. You will not enjoy playing this game.
You can't rate it a high rating and say it's not fun. That's insanity.
Go see this movie. It's not very good, but I gave it a 95 out of 100. You have to go see it for the cinematography. You have to go see it for the acting of the fourth extra in the second act of the 14th scene. It's rejuvenating. Drink bleach. Hang on, we're not done with this review. But it's an important and meaningful experience. Oh my God. How is it important or meaningful? This is not a cure for diseases. It's a fucking immersion device. I don't need it to be meaningful or important. I'm not trying to cure disease and famine in the central heart of Africa. It's a fucking video game with Norman Reedus, who has 2 roles that he's ever played. Angry, drunk, and redneck. Angry, drunk, and not redneck. The depth of acting skill. Norman Reedus.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I'm noticing it already.
It's an important and meaningful experience that earns its payoff through every bit of frustration and slog. The game's not fun. It'll frustrate you, and it's hard to get through. Words have meaning. Matt, what did I tell you 10 minutes ago? What did I tell you about reviewers and how they use words? That they use fluff to cover up bad things.
Oh yeah.
They're using fluff. They're using words that are actually negative to make it sound like it's a good thing. The game is a slog to get through. A slog is a messy, wet, and oftentimes difficult traversing, if you will, through a bog or a swamp or through some type of low-lying desert that may have some type of oasis. You slog through it because there's a lot of sand, a lot of mud, a lot of things sticking to your feet as you try to walk. It holds you down. It's uncomfortable, it's unpleasant, and at times it could be dangerous. You don't want to slog through anything. Even if it's
Do you ever
supposed to be a
think the
dark
reason why
game.
that these? I'm sorry.
No, go on. No, you
No,
have a question.
I
Go
was
on.
just when I asked. I was just going to ask a question. Do you ever think the reason why all of these reviews are as high as they are and they're giving so much praise, even though there's divisive words in here, is because they're kind of afraid to critique somebody like Kojima?
Yes, because the minute you critique Hideo Kojima, someone's going to call you an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. I'd rather be seen as an idiot and ahead of the curve than a kiss-ass who can't be relied upon. This game is boring. It has... Now, here's what I'll say about this game. From everything that I can piece together through my own experiences and otherwise. This game has a lot of mechanics that you will see in future games. A lot of ideas that you will see in future games. This game had a lot of groundbreaking ideas. But, Matt, do you know how we discovered radiation?
How was that?
People had to die. Just because we now know how radiation works and we can use it to our benefit does not mean that it was a fun experience to be replicated. We are not going to sell the experience of radiation discovery.
So I'm guessing the same rule applies into.
It absolutely applies.
Well, I'm saying the same rule applies to this. Going
It
just because
absolutely
mechanics
applies.
are in this thing, they had to come from somewhere. They had to come from a shitty place, right?
Literally the point I was making, Matt. Literally the point I was making.
I'm just
This game-
clarifying because I was just trying to make sense of it myself.
This game will introduce the one thing I really liked about the idea of this game was the ability. And it's not even an original idea either. So like you can fuck off with that idea. They took the soul system, not the you have to go find your soul in Dark Souls, but like how you could leave notes or something for people in Souls, even if you're playing single player offline. Similar.
I heard about that. Yeah.
Similar idea. You can basically compound and invest into roadways and stuff to make traveling easier on the server that you're on. But the only problem is if you fuck up, there's like this there's this event that can occur that could destroy large pieces of the map that you're on. And if one of those things happen in a specific area, all that hard work you put in for that. If you're building a bridge or whatnot, and something happens, like if you get death stranded or whatever the fuck they call it, you'll have to rebuild, and the entire area will just be dead and black and garbagey. So there is a nice interworking kind of interconnectivity with how you play the game. It's not something that you need to play with like an online, type of service or anything like that, but it does have online servers that that you can utilize in a specific sense. So that's pretty cool. But let's finish reading these videos. It's a look at life and death, connection and solitude, a game about building up what matters most and supporting each other selfishly. It's a game about socialism. You'll be bored at times and downright frustrated at others. What?
Don't you love how that point is just repeated over and over again in the same score? Like, it's insane.
So let me tell you what this reviewer said about the game. It's not fun. It's sluggish. It's boring and frustrating. 95 out of 100 review. I've never in my life given a game that's boring, sluggish, hard to get through, and not fun a good score in my life.
I am so glad that we have a definitive review score scale for us. I'm so glad for that.
It's easy to find out, and that's why I implemented it, because it's easy to see why we like a game. It's easy to see where a game lies and what it is. Death Stranding would probably get a 5 for visuals. It'll probably get a 5 for game mechanics from us. It might get a 3 to a 5 on music. But in terms of playability and or enjoyment and difficulty, it's going to get 1s, I guarantee you. So, like, at best, this game is looking at a 17 out of 25. That's a C.
Mm-hmm.
At best. And that's if we love the sound and the gameplay mechanics, which I've already seen for a fact to be a bit janky.
Mm-hmm.
In a game
Wasn't
that
one of the
matters,
things like you have to literally balance yourself or something
yes,
too? Isn't that part of it?
There's a balancing mechanic. And, like, there are times in this game where you look like ridiculous. Like, you can stack these things on your back, and depending on how, the size of them, the way they shape, and all kinds of other varying factors, it could either be like a giant fucking tortoise back, or like it could look like a giant long line of Legos. And either way, you're going to look ridiculous. But you're wearing like a mech suit, or like mech legs, to help you, power through. So that's why you can carry all this stuff. And that's why it's super janky, but it's just... the review is not done, though.
Okay.
You'll be bored at times and downright frustrated at others, but it comes with a great reward at the end that is made sweeter by the trials that preceded it. It's brilliantly unique in its design and implementation of online elements. So the payoff after 30 hours of playing is worth it. For the one time that it'll be worth it. And they did some cool, innovative shit. 95 out of 100. How's the game? How's the music? How's the animation? How's the story? PSX sense.nil. I love going to psx.sense.nil. I love that site. Kojima's latest creation is unique, perhaps even too unique. It's so unique, it's a bad thing. First sentence. It's so good, it's bad. Oh, you're essentially
Jesus.
You're essentially playing a courier, Paperboy, but an intriguing plot and phenomenally designed open world. All right, so you can't even say phenomenally designed open world when he reuses assets, and it's a well-known fact he reuses assets, and it's a well-known fact he's reused assets in this game quite repetitively. Shiny things are shiny. Douchebag.
Dude, I wonder if Kojima's got a fucking like Paperboy arcade in his office. He's just trolling people.
I bet you he was the model for Paperboy. Death Stranding may not be a perfect experience, but it comes pretty damn close. Even though it's perhaps too unique. IGN Spain. Spain. Because IGN America couldn't get a copy of it, apparently.
They did, and their score's lower, actually.
Oh, did they? Please pull that up for me. Kojima has done it again. Death Stranding presents an exciting story full of plot twists. I've literally heard 4 different videos tell me there's no plot twists in this game. Literally 4 different videos. Every single video I've watched about this game said there's no real plot twists to it. Or the story's pretty straightforward. So this dude's just lying. And that are truly amazing. The game has one of the most interesting exploration systems we've ever seen. It's an open world, no different than Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead. And they don't reuse assets, or at least when it comes to buildings or roads and shit. People, maybe, but everything else is pretty goddamn unique. Let's see, where are we at? The game has one of the most interesting exploration systems we've ever seen, and its way of connecting the community is very interesting. It won't leave anybody indifferent. It won't leave anybody indifferent. It won't leave anybody indifferent. Stevier gave it a 35. So your review's wrong. Your review is a lie. Your review is a lie, which means everything that you just said prior is a lie. So you, IGN Spain, fail. Zit Gid gave it an 80. Death Stranding is a weird game that I could not stop thinking about while reviewing it. It has plenty of sluggishness to it. Sometimes I never wanted to play it again.
Jesus.
80 out of 100. Sometimes I never wanted to play it again. There should be keywords in a sentence that automatically grade the game. Force reviewers to stop reviewing games like pussy ass bitch cowards.
Mhm.
If you don't want to play the game ever again, it's not a good game.
Mm-mm. No.
It's not a
It has.
hard concept. Either they're shit writers, and that's always a possibility, or it's a bad game that you refuse to call a bad game. Sometimes I never wanted to play it again, but once that back half of it, I was enthralled. There were times I couldn't wait to play it. I spent over 50 hours in this game, and eventually I went to spend more. Kojima and his team have crafted something that truly feels unique, for better or worse. So, for better or worse means that there's the open idea that this game is not. It's extremely possible that this game is bad, for better or worse.
Mhm.
For better or worse. It's different, and they did something unique, but it's not very fun, and it's bad. But
I did
better
pull
or
up the
worse.
US one,
Well,
by the way.
we're not
in case you
done.
don't
We're
know.
not done.
Okay.
It is hard to compare it to anything else, Paperboy, but that doesn't always mean it was. But that doesn't always mean it was fun. Wait, let me read that again, because that sounds stupid. It is hard to compare it to anything else, but that doesn't always mean it was fun. You can't compare it to anything else, Paperboy. And it wasn't fun. Video games died in 2019. Thank you, Hideo Kojima. Not everyone will adore this game, but I guarantee you no one will be able to forget it either. This game is herpes. All right. Now we go to Stevier. 35. Finally, an honest take I can agree with. Death Stranding is an irredeemable piece of garbage that should serve as a warning to publishers who give developers carte blanche to create art. Ha-cha-cha.
That is well said, man.
This is what happens when you give someone $100 million budget.
Mm-hmm.
You allow them to take all the time in the world. You have such a basic-ass bitch story. You don't reveal it for fear that you will give everything away. And by the by, remember how I said the 4 reviews all said, that it was, had no plot twists? All
Yeah, I heard
4
you.
of those reviews also said that Kojima gave everything about the game away in the trailers.
Oh my god.
All 4 of those reviews said it took at least 5 hours. 5 hours. Matt, would you like to do the math with me? So we can
Okay.
tell the people at home how long 5 hours is.
All right. We're doing 5 hours into minutes here, I'm assuming.
Yes.
That is 300 minutes.
Yes, it is. Would you like to know how long that is in seconds?
Shit. Yes, how long is that? How much is that in
A
seconds?
long fucking time. It's 5 hours
Math
worth of
skills are
seconds.
astounding.
It's 5 hours worth of seconds.
Oh yeah.
This is a game.
So like 5 hours to get going, is that what you're basically
Yes.
saying?
Remember how I had a problem that Red Dead Redemption had a 45-minute fucking prelude that you had to play to basically get a gist of all the goddamn mechanics?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was like an hour. And I damn near didn't play that game because I did not want to sit there and wait for 5 fucking hours on a goddamn sequel that I already knew how to play because everyone else played the goddamn original and we all know how the fucking mechanics work, you fucking cunts. Oh, but we added a hunting mechanic. Oh. Now you're saying that it's going to take 5 hours to get to the actual game.
Yeah, by hour 1 with this, I'd be out.
I'm
Easily.
out on the reviews. Send me that
That's just-
IGN review.
Okay. I will let me copy that and get it into you. Da-da-da. Let me get into the. All right. Yes, I'm slow. Leave me alone. And there you go. Should be set now. There you go.
All right. Death Stranding review. Damaged goods. Kojima's beautiful new world makes you work to enjoy it. That sounds like an abusive relationship.
Right?
If you buy something through this post, IGN will. Never mind. After the past, we're gonna read this verbatim because we have a short show for you tonight. So, and the Coffee Crisis game is gonna take 5 minutes to review.
Yeah, probably.
After the past 3 years of cryptic and confusing teaser trailers, the questions on everyone's lips has been, what exactly is Death Stranding? Well, now we know, and the answer is complicated. The first game from the famed designer Hideo Kojima since his dramatic departure from the publishers of Konami and his long-running Metal Gear franchise is a boldly innovative slab of sci-fi fastidiously crafted to host some of the most breathtaking sights I've ever witnessed in any medium, video game or otherwise. It's also a cross-country crawl that frequently finds itself mired in an exhausting amount of inventory management, backtracking, one-note mission design, and unprecedentedly arduous travel. It's evident that Kojima and his team at Kojima Productions have been worked extremely hard to build Death Stranding, but it's also painfully clear that they expect us to match their determination in order to fully enjoy it. Holy fuck, that's the most accurate thing I've ever read. The Death Stranding in question is the name given to the cataclysmic event that only small pockets of humanity, the Monster Energy Drink Corporation, and apparently universally accepted Facebook-style social status systems have survived. Since the Death Stranding natural wildlife has been wiped out, and rain is transformed into timefall, a deadly form of precipitation that instantly ages everything it touches. Lurking within each downpour are the BTs, beached things. Because, when I think about really well-named things, man, I think of BTs, ETs, CTs, OTs, 4Ts, TITs.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I was going to say. Paranormal entities who prey indiscriminately on survivors, leaving society confined to the safety of the subterranean shelters. Because apparently these things can't go into the subterranean. They can literally appear out of nowhere. That's fucking stupid.
Mm.
You are Sam Porter Bridges, Norman Reedus, a post-apocalyptic postman with a ghost-detecting baby strapped to his chest named BB, who, like most infants, is as adorable as he is insufferable. Sam's quest is certainly a compelling one. To reconnect the isolated remnants of civilization by completing an endurance testing sequence of delivery jobs from one city to the next, earning the trust of their citizens and bringing them back online in the government's Chiral network as he makes his pilgrimage west across North America. Sam is allied in his pursuit by a quirky cast of characters with quirkier names like Hurtman and Die Hardman, opposed by Troy Baker's wonderfully mechanical villain Higgs, who has an appetite for both licking faces and chewing scenery. Sam has additioned motivation to undertake his epic expedition. His sister, Emily, is held hostage by Higgs on America's westernmost edge, a destination appropriately called Edge Knot City. It's definitely an intriguing story setup, but if you think that playing the role of a courier makes it sound as though Death Stranding could be one continent spawning series of glorified fetch quests, it's because that's exactly what it is. The vast majority of its 70 main story missions are structured in the same way as the optional side missions we've all run in countless other open-world games, with the exception of certain tutorial missions with introduction to the basics of the combat system, boss fights, and a handful of other combat-oriented diversions. Advancing the plot in Death Stranding amounts to taking items from item X from location A to location B, over and over and over again. Sounds pretty repetitive, right? Well, the good news is that there are also side missions in Death Stranding. The bad news is that these side missions are also fetch quests, undertaken mainly to unlock additional items or Customization options. The Walking Dread. What makes the repetitive objects somewhat bearable is the scorched landscape of Death Stranding is staggering in scale and rich in detail to the point that initially I wanted to slow down and pore over every inch. And it's just as well because I wasn't really given any say in the matter. The opening hours are so ploddingly paced that it makes the whole thing seem like a personal attack on the speedrunning community. That's funny. We're all accustomed at this point to walking through vast game environments carrying an arsenal of weapons and items. That's a description that could define anything from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild to Grand Theft Auto 5 and just about everything in between. But Death Stranding turns that routine into a grueling exercise in frustration thanks to what is possibly the most aggravating literal inventory system ever conceived in a video game. With rare exception, every piece of cargo, weapon, ammunition, and tool you pick up has its own physical presence on Sam's body and its own heft, all managed by an incredibly fiddly inventory system. Of course, the concept of inventory weight limits in video games is not new or unique, and I'm traditionally a bit of a role-playing game pack rat who's prone to becoming over-encumbered and forced to shed superfluous items, items, or stubbornly walk slowly back to town on occasion. But Death Stranding takes that idea to an exhausting new extremes. Not only does Sam's personal inventory and cargo very easily become a comedically oversized Jenga tower of flight cases teetering on his back, but it also makes the act of taking Sam for a short walk up a slight hill feel more like trying to push a wheelbarrow full of bricks up a flight of stairs. I've done that before.
I love these references, man. These are fantastic.
I've done that before. It's fucking terrible. Meanwhile, movement in Death Stranding is effectively the antithesis of the empowering fluid parkour of Assassin's Creed or Marvel Spider-Man. Whereas in those games you hold a button to watch your athletic and nimble character effortlessly glide over objects and up and down vertical surfaces, in Death Stranding you alternate between holding the two triggers to maintain balance and wrestling with the thumbsticks to keep Sam's sensitive movement shifts in check. The result of all this effort is purely to walk a few meters up a gradual incline without him toppling over and scattering his painstakingly packed luggage rack like a boozed-up bellhop. That's great. Mercifully, there is an auto-arrange option in the inventory menu to optimize where exactly each piece of cargo sits on Sam's body, and once I discovered it, I used it for the absolute every subsequent delivery because why on earth would anybody not? The only time it backfired was when I was sent to literally deliver a pizza. The auto-arrange shoved the pizza onto my backpack sideways, thus ruining some poor bloke's dinner. Yet, even with Sam's load packed more efficiently, it doesn't entirely stabilize this toddler-like equilibrium should you take a false step or attempt to carry too much. That's funny. That's so funny. Even after I have a grip of the overly stubborn movement controls, I still had to maintain a slothful stride at all times thanks to the presence of BTs in most of the many rainy areas of the map. Sam is initially defensiveless against these supernatural enemies and must crouch walk past with bated breath in order to avoid them. Encounters with these spectral nasties certainly ratcheted up the attention to survival horror levels the first few times around, turning otherwise unassuming dunes into scary silent hills, but they quickly become yet another of Death Stranding's many mechanics seemingly designed to cause the friction that slows your progress as much as possible. Hideo Kojima earned his legions of fans by allowing them to be a snake. In Death Stranding, he's asking them to be a snail. Strand and deliver. I love that.
He is good with his quotes, man.
I like
love
this
it.
writer. This writer's a very good writer. Things do pick up, though it takes longer than I would have liked, roughly 10 hours in. During the lengthy third chapter, Death Stranding settles into the most consistently enjoyable rhythm. In relatively quick succession, you're given access to auto-pavers that can be fed resources to flatten out predetermined stretches of the landscape into smooth roads, along with the means to craft vehicles like a nimble reverse trike, a slow yet capable truck, and a floating cargo carrier that also doubles as a nifty hoverboat. All of these will help to minimize the hassle of getting to point A to point B, which of course is still what you're doing the entire time. So, wordy review. It's here that combat, effectively restricted to stealth takedowns and unarmed fisticuffs up until this point, blossoms to become exponentially more dynamic. Weapons and gadgets are suddenly thrust upon you at a steady clip, and I found that Death Stranding's Metal Gear Solid lineage became more evident once I began to infiltrate enemy camps, create confusion amidst the human highwaymen with smoke-based decoys, and use the non-lethal sticky gun to hilarious whip cargo right off their backs from afar like a frog's tongue snatching a fly. There's a satisfying amount of nuance afforded to the combat tools as well. Take the bola gun. Firing it to wrap around an enemy's torso will briefly immobilize them as they struggle to eventually wriggle free of the cord, buying Sam a fresh few moments to scurry into the denser foliage or behind a rock. Alternately, if you fire a charged-up shot at an enemy's throat, it will choke them out and leave them lying unconscious on the ground. Death Stranding's combat isn't ever quite reach the same level of flexibility as that of Metal Gear Solid 5, but it does introduce much-needed sense of play amidst the monotony of manual labor. Okay, how many more fucking paragraphs is this? Strand by me? Yeah, we're not reading all this. Where's the score, motherfucker?
Right under verdict at the bottom.
Okay, here we go. Verdict. Certain landmark games in recent years, like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Red Dead Redemption 2, have managed to successfully tread the line, the rigidity of realism and the exhilaration of pure escapism. But much like its stumbling protagonists, Death Stranding just can't consistently get the balance right, despite possessing equally lofty ambitions and countless innovative ideas. There is a fascinating, fleshed-out world of supernatural science fiction to enjoy across its sprawling and spectacular map, so it's a real shame that it's all been saddled on a gameplay backbone that struggles to adequately support its weight over the course of the journey. It's fitting that Kojima Productions' latest is so preoccupied with social media-inspired praise, because in the ways that I did like Death Stranding, I just didn't ever love it. Did he give it a score?
6.8.
Yeah, 6.8. Okay. Death Stranding delivers a fascinating world of supernatural sci-fi, but its gameplay struggles to support its weight. I think that is the most accurate take on this game I've read.
I find it surprising that it comes from a place like IGN too, because it like there's such the big mainstream one that you would think that immediately there would be like an 8 or a 9 attached to this thing, but the fact that they went honest with it is, I kind of appreciate that.
This game will be in the 60s or 70s on Metacritic when it's all said and done.
Yeah, it's so far right now is what it's like at the mid 80s now, like 84 or something like that. Last I saw.
I spell IGN with because they like to blow all the big developers. And if they're giving this game a 6.8,
That something seriously is wrong.
Yup.
Jesus Christ, because like, it's like you said, it's that telltale sign of you give somebody like this free reign to do something, and this is exactly what's going to happen to it. There's no control over this project, you know?
You mean
This was just him letting his shit loose. Yeah, like, I mean, no control to like make it something concise and like worthwhile. It's just ideas everywhere that the only person in control of them is the person who doesn't have all his marbles together in the first place.
Yeah, he needs oversight to make games. He needs oversight, deadlines, and budgets, because this is a game that cost so much money. I would not be surprised if once all the reviews are in next week, that the game doesn't take a huge hit in sales. And if this game doesn't sell a boatload of fucking sales, I wouldn't be surprised if Kojima Productions goes out of business after one game.
You think they'd be one and done with this?
I think they could be. I'm not saying they're going to. I don't know how much money went into this game. I do know that this game was kept purposely vague for a reason. I know just what I know from life. When you become very vague with things, when you're advertising them, you're being vague for one of two reasons. One, you're trying to stoke buzz, and that's when you get kind of innovative ideas, like with Cloverfield. Remember, ever see Cloverfield, the movie?
Yes, I have.
They kept that really, really tight-lipped. They put out a lot of marketing, a lot of kind of just out there guerrilla marketing. They did they created the websites. They had like social media accounts, and like it pieced together parts of the story for the movie. Now, the movie's nothing more than, a generic monster flick. Oh no, there goes New York. The song doesn't work quite as well. But that's the Godzilla thing. But when you look at, the movie, it's fine. And then you got all these little extra bits that kind of frame the story. That's pretty cool. And like, if you enjoy the movie, it gave you the idea. You could go and watch like certain things on I forgot. I think it was like YouTube at the time, or like check out their website and try to piece together the story. And it's like really cool, especially for fans that like mysteries. And that was like a really cool, innovative idea. The other reason why people don't market or present what they're getting and keep it vague is to minimize the negativity. Now, this is a twofold situation with Death Stranding. That's definitely what they did. But on top of that, you also have reviewers who are afraid to criticize Kojima. Because if you criticize Kojima, who is so widely accepted, so widely praised by people within an industry that do not like corporations, they are so willing to believe that Kojima is this genius who was abused and misused by Konami. But in actuality, Kojima went over budget. He was behind on this game, Metal Gear Solid 5, by almost years. He was difficult to work with. He worked his staff to the bone. And the guys that he brought on originally to help build this Metal Gear empire stopped working with him for reasons.
Mm-hmm.
You have to realize that this is the story of Kojima that is existing in reality that no one is talking about. Games don't get put out unfinished unless they're behind. Games are evaluated and determined by a corporation on efficacy and length based off of what they need to do. They know that unless mistakes are made during production, how long a game of that magnitude will take. They are not idiots. They are not just bloodthirsty, maniacal maniacs who want to work their employees to death just to get a game out. That's a great way to kind of look at it, but it's not the truth. These people know how long these games take, so they give them an estimation. And if they're close, they'll give them extra time. But if they're not, they need to make up the pace. This game, Death Stranding, reuses assets, has two types of gameplay, and it's not even good gameplay. It's fucking stacking items and walking. This game has a disjointed story, and that's always been Kojima's biggest issue, is that he needs a second writer with him whenever he writes anything, because otherwise you are going to have fucking Metal Gear Solid 5 stories, which are terrible and boring and bad. So bad. This is a game that people will not be able to talk about honestly because of the fact that it's developed by Kojima. In 5 to 10 years, Kojima's reputation will be dead. Because this game will be viewed honestly. Metal Gear Solid 5 will be viewed honestly. And eventually what happened at Konami will come out and be public knowledge, and people will be like, oh, wait. So you have a vindictive, almost narcissistic, quote-unquote genius who refuses to do anything of substance to help a game get made? Oh, yeah, that doesn't sound like someone I want to work with. David Hayter refuses to work with him ever again because of the way he was treated by him. Think about that. The voice of Solid Snake. Can't stand the guy.
The very fucking foundation the series is goddamn built on. Doesn't even want to do anything with him.
He was the sole reason, I would say at least half of the audience of Metal Gear Solid resonated and reverberated and vibed so much, resonated is the word I was thinking of, with the game was because of David Hayter's acting and his skillful ability to do voice work. And now you're going to kick him out for Kiefer Sutherland because you are embarrassed that you're making games? Well, fuck off then. Kojima's always
Do you really think that when Kojima left Konami that was kind of the beginning of the end for him?
I think Metal Gear Solid 5 was the beginning of the end for him.
Really?
Yeah. Have you played Metal Gear Solid 5?
No, I haven't.
Basically, all the missions are one of two things: stop the enemies or rescue the kidnapped people. Stop the enemies, rescue the kidnapped people. Stop the enemies, rescue the kidnapped people. There's some scenes in that game that were really good early on. Like there's one scene where you go to like a FEMA camp to save like a bunch of people, but you walk in and they're all dead, and they're not just dead; they're gruesomely dead. So like you're walking through and it looks like a goddamn horror game. And then all of a sudden Vulcan from the third game shows up and he's on fire. And you're like, this is a fucking horror game. And then you never again match that level of ingenuity or creativity. It's just you in a desert or you in the swamps of Russia. You in the desert or you in the swamps of Russia. And you're doing one of two things. You're stopping the enemy or you're saving fucking people who have been kidnapped. Now, like, you also like interrupt signals or like destroy radio towers, but fucking dumb. And like you had one good fight that wasn't even all that good, and it was against Quiet, the sniper of the game. It's fucking dumb. This game's so bad. It killed.
Do you think Kojima will? Do you think Kojima will have another game, or do you think this will be it?
Oh yeah, he'll have at least another two. Because after this game, I think fans are going to stop drinking the Kool-Aid. So the next game's going to get eviscerated. Not eviscerated, but judged more honestly. And then when the third game comes out, whatever it is, I think people are going to be done. I think they're going to see him for the artistic diva that he is. And I think fans are going to turn off. And here's the thing. You all need to understand, I loved Kojima. Metal Gear Solids 1 through 4 are literally 4 of my 10 favorite games. I liked Policenauts. I thought it was kind of quirky and fun. I played one of his murder mystery games or whatever it was. That was cool. It's kind of unique.
Didn't he make like a game called Snatcher, I believe? Wasn't that one of them?
Yeah, but you want to know what happened with Snatcher? No, take a guess what happened with Snatcher. What do you think happened with Snatcher when it came out? What do you think the issues with Snatcher was?
Probably some of the same similar issues he's had with Metal Gear Solid, I'm assuming.
It was an 8-chapter game that was so behind on production, they only got the first 2 chapters done for it.
Damn.
Kojima's always been bad at being
like
able
pretentious. Is that a word I can use for him?
Oh, he's clearly pretentious. He clearly wants to believe that he is an auteur, like Martin Scorsese. But to be honest, he's not. Because Martin Scorsese can get things done on time and under budget. And here's the thing with Kojima that I think is really telling, and it's always been people mention but don't really understand the ramifications of. He always wanted to make movies, so he makes games that are like movies. Now, in some ways, that can be very effective. I don't think there's anyone who's going to play Red Dead Redemption 2 who didn't like the thematic, almost movie-style storytelling devices at times. But they knew how to. Rockstar knows how to make games, man. Like I tell you what, they know where to place the moments that are needed. It's been out for over a year, so fuck you if you haven't played it yet. But when you're dying at the end of Red Dead 2, you have tuberculosis. You got the TB. I got TB, sister. It's a running joke. You'll understand if you play the game. And he knows that he's got a few weeks, maybe a few months. And he knows that they've been betrayed. John Marston's wife and Sadie and you are like the last 3 surviving members of the gang who haven't ran away or turned bad yet. Arthur tells the ladies, leave, I got to settle this with Dutch, knowing full well that he's going to die. And when he's telling them to go, they're begging him not to leave, and he's just like, get! Then he puts his hat on, gets on his horse, and starts riding towards the camp. And they basically just make it a playable cutscene with music on it. And the song, I think, is called That's the Way It Is. And it's so heartbreaking because you know what you're riding into. Like, you don't even need to be spoiled on how the game ends to know in that moment you die. This is where you are riding to die. And it's so heavy.
I love setups like that, man. I love that.
It's so heavy. But Kojima doesn't really grasp that. He's always about the superficial. He likes putting in superficial storylines. Like Metal Gear Solid's all about anti-nuclearization. Really? Really? I didn't understand that. Gotta stop the nukes. Oh my god. And he always, then it's like, the internet's the issue. And Then spying is the issue, and you can't trust anyone. And I don't know what 4 was about. It was dumb. Nanomachines can turn people into different people. It's fucking stupid. Like, some of these ideas are fucking dumb. And he tries to get out there. Like, this entire game is about the dissolving reality around us between internet and social media, and how those things, affect us as humans. And that's the whole point of the game. And the world has become rot with, misery and disdain because the internet doesn't work. It's a fucking South Park joke come to life. So yeah, don't play Death Stranding. Don't waste your money.
I'm torn on like doing it because like I said, this is when, remember when we went back and we did our anticipated games for this year. Remember what I was saying with Death Stranding? I just wanted to see what the fuck it was. Like now I've seen what it is and I don't want to fucking touch it.
Nope.
Now with a 10-foot fucking pole, that thing can sit on a shelf and rot until it becomes like $10 in the side of a used bin for all I care.
Looking forward to Super Showdown of Uranagi Headbutts, or whatever that fucking samurai game is called.
Oh, you're talking about oh man, I can't
Ghosts
think
of
of it.
Yagasaki?
Ghost of Tsushima. That's
there
it.
it is. Ghosts of Salami. So, Coffee Crisis. We're going to do a quick review on Coffee Crisis because you wanted to play this shit stain of a game.
I didn't want to. I got it for $1, and I figured, why the fuck not?
This is why we can't have nice things. So, basically, the premise of this game is 2 quirky baristas who are totally woke and totally into progressive culture have to fend off an alien invasion because they're here for coffee, I think. And they're being led by a guy in a tinfoil hat.
That's bonkers fucking premise already.
Literally the premise of the game. This game is supposed to be in the style of a Sega Genesis game, correct? That's what you told me?
Yes.
I think you said that it came out for Sega?
It did come out for the Genesis first, yes, and then it got a port to the Nintendo Switch.
You can literally buy this 2018 game on a Sega Genesis cartridge and play it in your Sega system.
Yes, you can.
I actually love that idea. Not even going to lie. But there's now limitations, and there are issues with this game. So I feel like I walk in, and these baristas are going to tell me, oh, you eat meat, we're vegan. We don't hate the planet. So already I'm rooting against them. Already I think they're douchebags. I will say this: they did like a Skinny Chester. Was that his name? The country singer Skinny Chester, or Chesner, something like that.
That sounds right.
It's supposed to be a playoff of Kenny Chesney. I thought that was cute. I like that they used the atypical big head gray aliens as the archetypical villains and shit. But graphically speaking, I actually think it's really good. And again, this is where we as reviewers are able to break down a game piece by piece with very little what's the word I'm looking for, Matt? Objectivity to plague how we view this game. So I might give this...
There's no interpretation. This is just direct.
Yeah, this is how we feel this game ranks. And we let the score do the talking. So you can have a game that you enjoy that may not score so well in certain areas, and you can have a game that scores really well that's just not fun. So this is for a Sega game. So you have to realize that the game was designed for the processing power of a Sega Genesis. So that's why you're going to have issues with some of this game. But I think when you're trying to do this concept, there's one of two rationales you can take. You can take the idea that this game was made for a system, so the limitations are understandable, or the limitations are not understandable because you didn't have to go with that idea. You could have just made a classic style beat 'em up for Steam, so to speak. It didn't need to be ported to Sega. You know what I mean? So there are going to be times that I feel like that is going to be a contradictory, conflicting situation, but I'm going to grade this how I feel that it should be graded upon, and that's the fact that you made this in 2018, so I'm going to hold it to 2018 standards.
Mhm.
I like the designs of this game. I like the retro stylized 2-dimensional or 2.5D dimensional beat 'em up graphics. And shit. I like the designs of the not the character designs, but the designs of the people in the game. I like the general aesthetic. I think the main
Mhm.
characters are pretty weak. A chick with
Like
purple
one
hair,
note
yeah,
stock.
very stock. A chick with purple hair and a dude with a beard. Oh, I remember the
So edgy, so metal.
And like the thing is, like when you think about a game like Zombies Ate My Neighbors, who similar concept. They put a
Mhm.
chick in a red hat and a purple jacket, and a kid with 60 stylized or 50 stylized 3D glasses and a blonde fucking I don't even know what you call it, a high top spike. But that worked
I
somehow,
guess that's a term.
right? That worked somehow. This just feels awash in Starbucks aesthetic.
I think with the zombies game, it felt more like endearing for what the game was, whereas this is just like, oh, we need to make a game about baristas. Let's just make them look generic as possible because we don't know what else to do.
I think the term "made it because they had to" isn't even accurate. I think this was the pitch, and I
Mhm.
think they wanted to do it this way. Graphically speaking,
Mhm.
I think the system fails. Not the system. I think the game fails at times because there are times when you hit enemies and they just disappear, but they're still there. You can still see the
Mhm.
shadow in which they're on. I think
Right.
the animations are really bad at times, considering this game came out in 2018. You can have a game that looks retro, but I expect it to feel new. I don't feel that way about this game. I don't think it's terrible. I think it's a very average game, so I'm going to give it a 3.
Yeah. You're referring it to like the performance of it, right? Like how fast the game, like a beat 'em up, should actually play, especially in the modern days.
No, I'm judging it based on the fact that at times the character literally disappears on screen.
Yeah.
I'm judging it because the characters look dumb as fuck, and from a distance you can't tell which one's which, and the animations are
Mhm.
terrible for a game made last year.
Yeah, it don't. It seems like a lot of the speed, like a lot of this is like slowed down. Like I mean, I get how like you're trying to be nostalgic, you're trying to appeal to a certain console and stuff, but it's not like this console couldn't perform and make something better than this. You know it for a fact that it could. And I honestly think it's average too. Like there's nothing great about this overall. It has some nice ideas, it has some nice presentation to it. It's not entirely anything bad by any means, but it's very, how do I say it? It's very plain, very generic. Like you've seen it a million times. So it's, to me, it's got to be a 3.
For sound, I think it's bad. I've never been a big Sega Genesis sound component fan. I've mentioned this before. It's supposed to be the faster performing, better system, but it never lives up to the Super Nintendo hype. So when I hear this game, I hear all the issues with the Sega Genesis sound card, and I
Mm,
acknowledge you did not need to make this game for a console like the Sega Genesis. So
mm-mm.
you purposely made a game that sounded distorted and bad. It's not all time bad, but it's not average. It is done specifically to be bad. So I'm giving it a 2. You wanted it to sound like a shitty old game. Congratulations, you can have a score like a shitty old game.
Yeah, just remember, just because something is nostalgic doesn't mean it's good. Not by a long shot. And especially with something like this, yeah, there's nothing in here that's particularly like memorable. There's no track in here that I can personally say is like great or sets any kind of mood. It's all like, again, it's just following the same trend. It's very stock. It's very one note. Nothing about this is great. And yeah, like I don't think I'm that low on it though. I would say to me it's fairly in the average range. So I think I would go a 3.
Okay. Hater. As far as gameplay goes, there's literally just like button mashing and most of the times if you just do a jump kick. Like that's literally how you beat the final boss, you just jump kick him to death. It's even for a beat 'em up, this is terrible. If I can beat the final villain by just jumping and kicking him, you have destroyed your own game and broken it. 1.
Yeah, that's where it gets rough, man. Like it's the mechanics are not that they're not that good. Like certain things should not be able to take out enemies. They shouldn't. Like there should be some, at least even in a beat 'em up, there has to be some form of strategy to a degree, right? There's got to be some ways to take out certain enemies. Like look at any other beat 'em up. There's enemies that would throw a projectile. There's enemies that could jump at you. There's enemies that would hit you with another object or something. It doesn't work like that here. It's just run up to him, beat the shit out of him, and most of the time it doesn't even work all that great. So yeah, I don't go like I won't go two. I'm not as harsh as you. I go a two.
Fun factor: I enjoyed the cheekiness of the aliens wanting coffee. Okay, but you didn't make it your own. You just kind of used stereotypical aliens across the board for most of the game, and then like regular people you had to beat up. So like you didn't own it, and I feel like that's part of the
Mhm.
problem. So I'll give it a two.
You just feel like there just wasn't any passion in mind when they were making this game, like
I
any passion for what they were trying to
No,
do.
I don't want to say that because maybe there was. I don't.
Hmm.
Really, what it comes down to is I don't think there's any creativity.
Hmm.
I think, with all due respect to you, because this isn't meant as a slight, this is how I feel you would make a game. You would go with kind of constructs that you know of, and use them in a game.
I'm not offended by that. I'm honestly, I understand where you're coming from with that. It makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's the familiarity. It's what I've always enjoyed about something, but what I remember being good just because I want it to be good doesn't mean the way I'm interpreting it will be good, like good to other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like if you wanted to make a
Like,
Sonic clone, you would make a purple groundhog, and he would go through
mm,
tunnels in the ground, and like he'd have a tailed squirrel and a
mm.
raccoon that could fly by punching things. Like it would be very kind of Sonic and Knuckles kind of thing.
Yeah, inspiration doesn't always lead to quality. Not doesn't.
Well,
And just because I mean, okay, go. Sorry.
inspiration needs to be backed by creativity. You
Mm,
can have the greatest idea in the world, but if you don't know how to make it unique to yourself, then it becomes the inherent problem. Making
mm,
something unique is a very difficult thing. It's about finding a vibe, finding a style, an aesthetic, finding the things that make a game yours. And not everyone has that capability. It's a trait that not everyone has. Like not everyone can draw. Not
mm.
everyone can be super creative. And when you make games, you need to be super fucking creative. Otherwise, it's going to feel like every other broke ass 90s game that came out of every other recycled fucking trend.
Now, I really hate to throw a pun out here, but do you really think that this game actually suffers from, and just hear me out, an identity crisis?
How is that a pun? That's a
Because
cliche.
the game's called Crisis. The pun is the
Oh,
game is called
coffee
Crisis.
crisis.
I would think that'd be a pun. Yeah.
Yeah, the pun would be more on the coffee, but I understand what you're saying.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
I don't know if it has an identity crisis so much as it doesn't have an identity. Like you have
Hmm.
very unlikable design characters. Coffee baristas are often viewed as pretentious and unlikable
Hmm.
because they make you say things like "I want a venti" instead of just saying "I want a large." It's a very
Oh, I've heard that before.
Yeah, it's a very very dumb thing, and it's not their fault. It's company directives, but people don't view coffee shops routinely as the most welcoming of places.
Hmm.
And they're designed as such. They're designed to feel like it's some high brand.
Hmm.
So you have these two very hipster-esque design characters already working in a place that's supposedly supposed to be exclusionary in its design and price point, and I'm supposed to think these are the good guys? Just let the goddamn aliens have some goddamn coffee. Open up peace relations.
So they were just like unlikable to you, like right out the gate. Then.
Oh God, I saw them. I'm like, they're vegan little cucks, who
Hmm.
think that unless everything goes specifically in their opinion the right way, then all of a sudden everyone's racist and homophobic and evil. Yeah, so no, fuck these two characters. I hate them. And he uses a fucking sack of beans, for Christ's sakes. Like, what the fuck is that?
So what rating did you give it then?
I gave Fun Factor a 2 because I did find it cheeky that aliens want coffee.
I gotta be honest, like I really did not have a lot of fun with this one. Like I honestly thought that a lot of it was just kind of tedious and boring. So I might actually go 1 actually.
I don't know, Bob. It's a little overdone and dry. Overdone and dry, Teddy? Overdone and dry. Overdone and dry! Oh, the article gave words to my thoughts. As far as challenge goes, I'm giving it a 1 because you can literally just jump kick everyone to death. Super fucking hard, right? There's no creativity. There's no, dynamic gameplay. It's just, like 12 levels or whatever, 10 levels of just the same boring bullshit. At least in, like, the Turtles games. They put you on a goddamn hovercraft and you had to jump back and forth, or you had to worry about trains and how to get through certain levels. But no, like, fuck this game. This game fucking super fun.
I'm just literally run through the same levels and do the same shit over and over again. Yeah, it's
not even
incredibly hard.
There's no superpowers in this game. Like, there's nothing.
Like I think there's like one charge move that I found, like when you hold the bunny, spins it for a second, but that is it. Like there's nothing else past that.
But it doesn't do anything. Like, all right, cool, you charged it. Like in the X-Men game,
honestly, if anything, it makes it worse because it opens you up to further attacks too.
Well,
it's a detriment.
In the X-Men game, it would deplete your health, so you could only use it in specific instances because you didn't want to, get to a point where you were, fucked essentially.
I know it did in Turtles 3 too when you use the special whatever drain part of your health too. So these things are never really beneficial.
They're supposed to be like last ditch moves. So, what are you giving it?
Yeah, it's relatively a breeze to get through this game pretty much. So 1.
Well,
it's a 1.
Matt, this is another disaster pick for you. That's a 9.5. You're done picking games to review.
You keep saying that, but then you don't think of things, and then I come up with something, and then you hate me for it the following week. So,
yes, and there will come a time and a day when eventually I will hold true to my rhetoric and edict that you are done. It may not be today.
The day will come. The day will come eventually. I don't think it'll come now, but it'll come eventually. Having actually done this one, there was another one that actually another company released that was also on a Genesis cart, but it was a Switch game first. And it was like do you remember Smash TV? You ever hear of that game?
Yeah, I remember Smash TV.
Yeah, this developer made a game like that, and they added an aesthetic kind of like similar to Doom or Aliens in it, and kind of made a game centered around that mechanic.
Well, so we're not going to cover this too in depthly because the point of view is being severely disjointed. First and foremost, I've already said there's a place for unions. Being a freelance writer is not one of them. Matt, you know for a fact that I write freelance work. I am a freelance writer by trade. I would never join a union. I would never join a union. Never. But they give you health insurance and protection. But I have to pay them a third of my paycheck. Or I don't get to work.
Yeah, hardly seems like a good trade-off.
In certain fields, it's great. Like in nursing, the automotive industry, you need that. Because there are deadlines that they will literally make you do without any real repercussion done to them unless there's a union. But if you're a teacher, you don't need a union. If you're a writer, you don't need a union. Police officers need unions. Your local barista does not. So yes, I am not fully for, but I'm also not fully against unions. They have a place. Being an independent writer does not need a union because I am able to dictate where I work. So this whole Kotaku story is because a bunch of union writers with the Writers Guild of America, which they're just terrible in essence, are getting upset because they can't write about non-sports stories on a sports website and because they have autoplay videos. Oh my God. We're protesting. You don't own the fucking website. You don't get to fucking protest. You are paid to do a job. Do the fucking job. Now, when we think about like with video games, we've talked about this before. The idea of what's the fucking term that they use? There's points that they're supposed to reach as the game's being developed. Development cycles, I guess. Development perks, I think is the term I'm thinking of. Where
I would think milestone, but I don't think that's
development milestone perks or milestone whatever. But there's an inherent idea within video games where you are supposed to sacrifice your health to make sure a game is not only on time, but ahead of time and under budget. And they sacrifice the health of their designers to get there. So I understand why people in the video games industry feel that they need a union because, let's be honest, unless you have a union, you will have people who abuse their right as your boss. We've seen it. We know it happens. As an independent writer, I can turn down or go for any article or any topic that I want. So if I don't like a story or if I don't like a narrative, I don't need to do that. I can be like, I'm out on this one. Give me another one. Now, in certain instances, you're assigned a story, but usually it's not a story. It's an idea. It's, hey, there's a doctor. 15 of his last 16 patients have died. Go find out why. Oh, well, it turns out all of his patients are pigs and all of his patients are going slaughter. He's actually a veterinarian and he makes ribs. Not really a scandalous story.
Not really. No.
But you know, as a journalist, as a writer, that's what you're supposed to find out. You're supposed to find out the story. Now, sometimes they'll be like, listen, we want to write a piece, we want a puff piece about the makers of deodorant. Go find out and see what the good stuff is. And usually it's designed to you know, be a puff piece and be nice and fluffy and whatnot, and it's fine, whatever. Not everything that hits the internet needs to be hard-hitting journalism. It can just be a story about something that exists. And you'll see it.
It can be entertaining too, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be like that.
And that's the thing I think people don't realize is news is supposed to be multi-centric. It's supposed to be informative, it's supposed to be fun, it's supposed to be depressing, it's supposed to be exciting, it's supposed to be dull, because it's information. Now, some information can be done in a very pleasant manner. Here's an interview with The Rock about his upcoming movie. And isn't he so charming? Also, 26 baby puppies have been slaughtered on the side of the road. News after the break. All right, that was a hell of a fucking segue. But that's what it's supposed to be. And a lot of these sites that exist without purpose. Deadspin does not need to exist. You know, there is no solitary reason for Deadspin to exist other than entertainment. And they are a sports website. They are not cracking the clues to the universe. They are not curing diseases, and they aren't investigating high-end politicians who take money from their citizens all the time without, you know, any real authority to do so. There are certain limitations that, as a writer, you know that exist. I can't write a piece on the governor of Ohio. I write about sports.
Right.
So if I went to my editor and be like, I want to do a pitch on the governor of Ohio being into kangaroo boxing matches. How the fuck does that have anything to do with anything that I cover? It doesn't. And I would be laughed at and
Not
told
a damn
no.
thing.
So with Deadspin specifically, they're told that they have to stick to sports. There we go. Because
You got it.
yeah, eventually. Because they're a sports website and they want everything that they write about to centralize on sports. It does not matter what the story is, as long as it has a sporting element to it, you can cover it. That's a pretty big, broad, general fucking thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm supposed to be, what, sympathetic to Kotaku and Deadspin? Deadspin posted a video of Hulk Hogan having sex. Just to point out, oh, he said the N-word. All right, but you still violated New York. Well, actually, at the time, I don't think the law was in place. But they posted revenge porn. They literally posted revenge porn. The owners of the website went bankrupt, had to sell the site, which got sold again. And they want to sit here and take a moral high ground against making money when they literally are a website that exists to make money. This is the dumbest fucking story that exists, and I don't know why people are talking about it. These writers are garbage. I know some of them personally, and I can attest to their garbage-like behavior. They are scum. They are the bottom of the barrel. If you worked for any Gawker Media-owned website at any point in time, I don't think you're a good person. You always wrote to fit a narrative, not to fit the truth, and I do not like them. And then I found out that they're fucking unionized, and I just went, oh, well, that explains everything.
It's just that nice little bookend to the story, right?
Writers who are in unions are like fighter fighters who claim they need Corvettes. Bitch, no, you don't.
Well, like, how surprised are you supposed to be when you don't write sports stories on a sports site and you get fired for doing so?
Literally.
Like, that's not surprising. Like, you're an idiot. You're supposed to write.
Matt, literally. They were told to do their job, and they said no. They're not talking about putting down babies. They're not part of the SS, and they're having second thoughts about killing Jews. They are being told to write about sports, and they are so indignant and so filled with this self-visualization of how important that they are, that they said no to a simple fucking request because damn the man, apparently. But bitch, you part of a union.
They were doing it.
You are the man.
I don't mean. Mm-hmm. I think the main reason it even came up though is because I believe I can't remember which site did it, but one of them put up an article explaining what the problems were, the issues were that they were having with
right, because they're giant children
or something like that. Yeah, and then it got taken down, and then they got all up in arms about it. And there's reasons why, man. You know the rules going in. You know that's the last thing you do if you want to keep your job. So what are you doing? Why are you fucking up? What are you that? You think you're that entitled? They can easily shift and move you. They don't need you around.
But they can't. That's the thing. Because they're a union now.
Mm-hmm.
So because they have union protections, they can be indignant. They can be full of themselves. They can be so goddamn petty. And it's so
it all works in the opposite way of what I said then. Okay. I got
it's so hard to get rid of these guys. Now, they still can. The term is fired for cause. You have to be fired for a reason. And right now, the reason why the editor was fired was because the editor's job was to filter out stories that didn't fit the narrative of the site.
Mm.
The editor didn't do their job. So the editor was fired. But the writers can't be fired because they're just doing their job. So instead of just replacing the roster and finding writers who want to be there, who are willing to do the job that these writers and owners want, they are now protected. So these writers will continue to do bad work in the eyes of the scope of the site and still be paid, still be retained, still take jobs from people who are willing to do the job. All because they want to be fucking self-righteous and selfish.
I'll tell you what, I never had any reason to really go to any of these websites, and I probably will never go to them ever again.
Kotaku had one story in 5 years. Oh, the working conditions at Rockstar is really hard. We've known that.
I think there was another one too that they did was I found a story through Kotaku. It was the whole thing about the remember the aliens Colonial Marine story or whatever, how there was some glitch or fixed thing in there. I think that was from Kotaku, I believe.
Oh, okay, but what did that have to do with anything though? Like in the grand scope of things, like it was a glitch, you know?
Yeah,
Like
no,
it
no,
wasn't
I'm
about
not saying it was
human
like
health.
justified. I'm just saying that's where I found it. That's all.
Like, oh, cool, you found it was a glitch story. I don't know. That's like saying like, you know, I solved Watergate and I reported on a puppy parade. Like you see how like the two varying degrees of seriousness are like way off there. That's Kotaku. We get one
Well, that
story
that
and then a
then
bunch
it
of
wasn't
puppy
even it wasn't
parades.
even that it wasn't even them though. I mean, that was just probably them taking it from another source because that was reported by multiple different sites. It wasn't them exactly who found it, I believe.
I don't remember who reported it, and I would need to go back and look at it because any writer with their salt will source where they got the story from.
Mm.
So you know you can just Google it and find out like within the next 5 minutes like where the story came from. But you know I have no respect for Gawker Media, never have, and I never will. And if these websites go belly up, I don't give a fuck. And the ownership firm that owns them now are literally just trying to get a profit out of them. So they don't like they bought them for like $1 million or something like that. So they don't even care if these people want to add like douchebags. They don't have any reason to keep them. They'll just close the fucking websites. They don't give a shit. They are interested in making a profit and profit only. And if these websites don't make a profit, they have no desire to keep them around. And if it becomes too
Mm.
much of a hassle to keep the profit, they have no reason to keep them around. So they're literally just working themselves out of a job. That's all this is becoming.
Mm.
So, you know, so long, farewell, Avitas, and goodbye, bitches.
Yeah, this has been on numerous different websites. I'm seeing it like on Destructoid and IGN and a bunch of other things. So it did not originate with Kotaku, as far as I know.
Well, just read this story and see where it's sourced, because it'll say.
Okay.
I mean, you don't need to do it on air. I don't really care. I'm just saying.
No, no, I know, I know.
Do you have
I was.
anything else that you want to talk about? We're not going to do any of the reviews for this week, like YouTube stuff or anything like that, because we're trying to keep it short.
You're not gonna talk about any of that stuff then? All right.
We're already at 90 minutes, and that'll take another half an hour. So no.
Yeah. All right. That's fair enough. No, I don't honestly. No, I don't really have anything else to talk about, to be honest. No.
Go to the
Other than that, we can always save that stuff to the next week.
yeah.
So.
We'll save everything up for next week. Go to the website, realnerdcorp.com, realnerdcorp.com. We're on Twitter at NERDCORP. We're on Instagram at realnerdcorp, realnerdcorp. We're also on Twitch at twitch.tv/comic and gamecore and twitch.tv/wrestling underground. We have 2 shows tomorrow night, so you're going to want to check in for that. We're also on YouTube. Links will be down below on YouTube and on the website. So just highlight those and put them where they need to go. You can find me on Twitter at ChadNerdCorp, ChadNerdCorp, and on Instagram at Chad'sPhotoHut. Matt can be found at MNerdCorp on Twitter and on Twitch. Correct?
That's correct.
You can also find me. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You can find us on Podbean by downloading past shows by going to realnerdcorp.podbean.com or by downloading the Podbean device and searching Real Nerd Corp on the Podbean app for your mobile device and downloading past shows right then and there. We're also on iTunes by searching NerdCorp, NERD, and of course, as mentioned, the YouTube and Twitch accounts as well. But if all that is confusing, just go to the website, realnerdcorp.com, realnerdcorp.com, your one-stop shop for all things NerdCorp, which GameCorp is a subsidiary of. So, Matt, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Then why don't you end the show and take us home?
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you guys next week. Not sure what we're really going to be doing. We'll have to figure that out, but we'll see you next week.
It'll be a review week. We're just going to talk about everything we didn't talk about this week. Huzzah! So I have spoken.